is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio for Tuesday, July 26th, 2022. I'm Kevin Smith, and in your headlines today, after 2.5 years of pumping oil, Exxon now required to import equipment to cap blown-out oil well, according to Minister Barrett. EPA joins Exxon contractor in defending hazardous facility at Houston. President Ali holds talks with U.S. Secretary of State, and President Ali sells Guyana cheap to access loans, says country needs low-interest financing and shrugs off rich nation status. $105 million training facility for Temeri Prison, 30 workers on breadline as Amcar closes Rosignol plant, and Guyanese catching hell in oil economy. Opposition says government cost of living relief measures not working. Stay tuned to stay informed.
If you are applying for a land compliance from the GRA, you will need the following documents: completed application form, copy of transport title or lease, copy of agreement of sale or purchase, vendors and purchases tin, improvement schedule. You must ensure all outstanding capital gains taxes and other taxes due are paid and returns filed before you receive your compliance certificate. It takes 5 working days to receive your land compliance certificate. GRA, your partner in development.
Can't believe all this money for me, money for me. I got to get the CASH. That's the code for the vault, so let's play. Top up with the toes and then the next day you could be a millionaire. But did you sell?
More than 15 million to grab this summer. Top up with $1,000 or more to collect the letters to spell CASH. For a chance to catch millions in the Digicel's cash vault. Top up today.
Did you sell?
And now for the news in detail. In an effort to improve industry performance and the safety of operations in the oil sector, the government of Guyana has ordered ExxonMobil's subsidiary, Esso, to keep a capping stack in the country. This critical piece of equipment is placed over a blown-out well to stop or redirect the flow of hydrocarbons and to buy time for engineers to permanently seal the well. Highlighting this key development, which is now included as a requirement in Exxon's Yellowtail environmental permit, was Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat. He was at the time making his contributions to the parliamentary debate held last Thursday on the opposition's motion for full liability coverage for oil spills. It should be noted that in 2019, former head of the Energy Department, Dr. Mark Bino, had announced that a capping stack was one of the requirements attached to the Liza Phase 2 environmental permit. In other news, the EPA has joined ExxonMobil contractor Schlumberger in defending the placement of a hazardous radioactive waste facility at Houston on the east bank of Demerara. Both the EPA and Schlumberger filed separate affidavits defending the decision to place the facility in Houston after residents moved to the court seeking an injunction against the operations. The parties have held that the construction of the radioactive facility is in keeping with the legal and regulatory requirements of the EPA. Citing a host of grave health and environmental dangers, the residents claim that the authorization granted by the EPA was done in absence of evidence on whimsical and capricious grounds which are against the agency's own policies and without any legal foundation or authority. And in other news, President Irfan Ali on Monday held talks with United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and other top U.S. officials on a range of issues. Up to last evening, there was no official statement on the outcome of the meeting by the government, and according to a release by the Office of the President, Deputy Secretary Graves committed support to the government of Guyana in finance and tourism, as well as U.S. private sector investment into Guyana. Meanwhile, President Ali last Wednesday evening, while addressing a packed room comprised of business executives, government ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, and other top officials, the president was content to share that Guyana is a poor oil-producing nation. In fact, he told the gathering that Guyana needs low-interest financing and that once there is concessional financing, Guyana is happy. The president sought to explain that development does not take place overnight, but is likely to take a quote-unquote longer time. The head of state's remarks come at a time when Guyanese across the country have been protesting for a renegotiation of the contract with ExxonMobil. Based on the 2016 PSA the country has with the oil company, Guyana is entitled to 2% royalty from its natural resource wealth. It also receives a 50% profit after ExxonMobil deducts 75% of the oil earnings to service the development costs. The other 50% is shared with the operator, the Stabroek Block Esso, the local subsidiary of Exxon. And apart from the parliamentary opposition believing that the current cost of living crisis should be recognized as a matter of national importance, they are also concerned that the measures put in place by the government are not reaching the citizens that need it the most. This was the argument by Jermaine Figuera, who during his speech in support of a motion to pay public servants 1 month after work sought to get his concerns across about the high cost of living. The opposition had been trying to get a motion across to have Parliament debate a plan to address the high cost of living. However, a letter from the Speaker Wednesday last highlighted that the particular motion could not be heard since it, and I quote, will result unavoidably in the incurrence of public expenditure, thereby necessitating withdrawal from the consolidated fund, end of quote. And just before we head to a short break, let's tell you that having been allocated some $47.9 billion to boost public security from this year's budget, the Ministry of Home Affairs is looking to spend an estimated $105 million to construct a training center at the Temeri prison, located on the east bank of Demerara. The Ministry of Home Affairs, has facilitated a number of training programs for inmates of the Temeri, Luzignan, and Mazaruni prisons, which are aimed at preparing them for reintegration into society. Already over 800 inmates from all three prisons have been trained in a number of areas. The time is now 12 hours 9 in Guyana. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
This is GHK Lall, inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues, immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. Let us continue with your news. The Amazon Caribbean Guyana Limited, or AMCAR, closed its Rossignol, West Bank Berbice branch, putting on the breadline some 30 workers. The Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union, in a press release, said on July 25th the company informed that it had closed the plant. The GAU, which represents the plant employees, was stunned by the decision. GAU nevertheless said the company had for some time been complaining about the challenges it had encountered. The union said it was also aware that the company's principals were in contact with the government to address some of the difficulties they were confronting. And the government of Guyana has proven to be a utensil of oil companies, striking out a motion that was intended to secure full liability coverage in the event of an oil spill. This view was shared by Our Wealth, Our Country, a recently launched civil society group that has been lobbying for changes to be made in the oil contract with ExxonMobil. The civil society body reasoned that the government has a responsibility to protect the safety and security of the entire country, and was keen to highlight that in about 5 years' time, when oil production reaches 1 million barrels per day, the risks for environmental harm would increase significantly. Guyana is working with the international community using a coordinated approach to tackle the infectious monkeypox disease in light of the World Health Organization's recent announcement that it is now considered a global public health emergency. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony said that more efforts is needed to fight the disease as he reflected on the monkeypox dilemma. Meanwhile, the government is taking the necessary steps to prepare for the disease. To this end, the government said the vaccines used for smallpox has shown promising results and will be used to immunize persons against monkeypox. And in other news, the Ministry of Health on Monday recorded 21 new COVID-19 cases across the country, taking the total number of confirmed cases since March 2020 to 69,468. The ministry revealed that there are 5 patients in the COVID-19 ICU, 25 are in institutional isolation, 808 are in home isolation, and 2 are in institutional quarantine. With the time now moving on to 12 hours 13, we wrap things up as usual with page 7 of today's Kaieteur news. Georgetown meets Washington. Yesterday, our top leaders were summoned to meet the third most powerful person in the U.S., Government Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Accompanying President Irfanali on the visit was Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, Foreign Affairs Minister Hugh Todd, and some other underlings. At the time of writing this, there was no official statement on the outcome of the high-level meeting, so we cannot comment on the substance. We, however, would be surprised if our leaders raised the issue of the abuse Guyana suffers at the hands of one of America's top corporations, ExxonMobil. We would not be surprised, however, if they used the meeting to mollycoddle with Blinken while ignoring concerns about Exxon's continuous flaring of gas here, the meager royalty we receive for our oil, lack of full coverage insurance, and a host of other issues. As a child growing up, you anticipate with great pride your parents return home from a trip. Guyanese don't even know when our leaders leave these shores, much less expecting anything good from their jaunts. And that wraps things up for today's news at noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.